Today, as we do understanding poetry, we are going to look at some of the elements of poetry, the building blocks, if you would, in a poem. So what is poetry? Well, in poetry, the sound and the meaning of the words are going to be combined together to express feelings, thoughts, and ideas. Now, the poet chooses their words carefully. They use a lot fewer words than, say, somebody who's writing in prose. And poetry is usually written in lines. So today we're going to look a bit at the poetry elements, and writers use many elements to create their poems. These elements include rhythm, the sound, the imagery, and even the form. So we can break those four parts down further. Let's start with rhythm. Now, rhythm is the flow of the beat in a poem. It gives poetry a musical kind of feel. Now, it can have a fast rhythm or a slow rhythm, depending on the mood and maybe even the subject of the poem. A lot of times you can measure rhyme in meter. You're counting the beats in each line. Let's look at some examples. So here we now have The Pickety Fence by David McCord. We're going to see that the rhythm in the poem is fast. It's to match the speed of the stick that is striking all of the fence posts. The pickety fence, the pickety fence. Give it a lick, it's the pickety fence. Give it a lick, it's the clickety fence. Give it a lick, it's the lickety fence. Give it a lick, give it a lick, give it a lick with a rickety stick. Pickety, 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 pick. Again, the rhythm is extremely fast. If you read it much slower, it doesn't have the same good rhythm. It's trying to match the speed of the stick striking the fence. If I read the pickety fence, the pickety fence. Give it a lick, it's the pickety fence. It doesn't have the same rhythm. You feel the rhythm as you're reading. The pickety fence, the pickety fence. Give it a lick, it's the pickety fence. So the rhythm in this poem is slow because it's going to match the night gently falling and the lights slowly coming on. Where Are You Now by Mary Brighton Miller. When the night begins to fall and the sky begins to glow, you look up and see the tall city lights begin to grow. In rows and little golden squares, the lights come out. First here, then there, behind the window panes, as though 1,000,000,000,000 bees had built their golden hives and honeycombs above you in the air. Another part that is used in poetry is sound. Writers love to use interesting sounds in their poems. After all, poems are meant to be heard. Now, these sound devices include rhyme, repetition, alliteration, and onomatopoeia. Let's start with rhyme. Rhymes are words that end with the same sound. Hat, cat, and bat rhyme. Now, rhyming sounds don't have to be spelled the same way. Cloud and loud rhyme. We're looking at sounds. Rhyme is the most common sound device that you'll find in poetry. A lot of times you'll notice it at the end of lines, but sometimes it can be interspersed within the lines themselves. So if we break down further to rhyming patterns, poets can choose from a variety of different rhyming patterns, and we'll look at the different types, but we can see all four of them on the right-hand side. We can have an AABB pattern, where lines 1 and 2 will rhyme, and lines 3 and 4 will rhyme. You can have an ABAB pattern, where your first and third lines will rhyme at the end, and lines 2 and 4 will rhyme at the end. You could have lines ABBA, where lines 1 and 4 will rhyme, and the middle lines 2 and 3 will rhyme. We've also seen ABCB, where lines 2 and 4 will rhyme, but lines 1 and 3 do not rhyme at the end. Well, let's check out the AABB rhyming pattern. First, Snow by Marie Louise Allen. Snow makes whiteness where it falls. The bushes look like popcorn balls, and places where I always play look like somewhere else today. So you can see lines 1 and 2, the falls and balls, have that AA same rhyming pattern, and our BB rhyming pattern is in lines 3 and 4 with the words play and today. Oodles of Noodles by Lucia and James L. Himes Jr. have the ABAB rhyming pattern. I love noodles, give me oodles. Make a mound up to the sun. Noodles are my favorite foodles. I eat noodles by the ton. So you can see our lines ABAB with lines 1 and 3 having oodles and foodles having that rhyming pattern, and lines 2 and 4, sun and ton, having a rhyming pattern. Next is the ABBA rhyming pattern from Bliss by Eleanor Farjeon. Let me fetch sticks, let me fetch stones. Throw me your bones, teach me your tricks. So lines 1 and 4 have a rhyme at the end, sticks and tricks. And for the B pattern, stones and bones in lines 2 and 3 rhyme. Lastly, we have an ABCB rhyming pattern where lines 2 and 4 will rhyme, but the first and the third lines will not rhyme. The Alligator by Mary MacDonald. The alligator chased his tail, which hit him in the snout. He nibbled, gobbled, swallowed it, and turned right side out. So as you can see, lines 2 and 4, snout and inside out rhyme, but tail and it in lines 1 and 3 do not rhyme. Repetition is also often used for sounds in a poem. Repetition occurs when poets repeat words, phrases, or even full lines in a poem. It helps create a pattern and increases rhythm. As you can understand, if we're repeating words, they're going to have the same word vowels, they're going to have the same word consonants, so the pattern and the rhythm are going to increase. It also can strengthen feelings, ideas, and mood in a poem if you keep repeating the same idea over and over again. For a repetition example, we have The Sun by Sandra Liatzos. Someone tossed a pancake, a buttery, buttery pancake. Someone tossed a pancake and flipped it up so high that now I see the pancake, the buttery, buttery pancake. Now I see that pancake stuck against the sky. Alliteration is also often used for sound. Alliteration is the repetition of the first consonant sound in words, as in the nursery rhyme, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. We also have another one on the right-hand side, the snake slithered silently along the sunny sidewalk. When we watch for alliteration, you're going to see a lot of the beginning sounds, consonants that are the same. This Tooth by Lee Bennett Hopkins. I jiggled it, jaggled it, jerked it. I pushed and pulled and poked it. But as soon as I stopped and left it alone, this tooth came out on its very own. So for alliteration, we can see a bunch of J words in the first stanza, jiggled, jaggled, and jerked, and a lot of P sounds, pushed and pulled and poked. And of course we have soon and stop. There's a lot of alliteration throughout the entire poem. Onomatopoeia is also used for sounds. Onomatopoeia are words that represent the actual sound of something. Dogs bark and cats purr, so we use these words for their actual sounds. A thunder can boom, rain drips, and clocks tick. So we're using words that appeal to the actual sense of sound. As an example, we will be listening to Listen by Margaret Hillert, where we have two people walking through the snow, and the onomatopoeia is the sounds of them walking through the snow. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Frozen snow and brittle ice make a winter sound that's nice. Underneath my stamping feet and the cars along the street. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. Crunch, crunch, crunch. As we move away from sounds, we start getting into what our minds would think as we read the poem. And you're going to go into the eyes, the ears, the sounds, the smells, all of the imagery that might come along with your poem. Now, imagery is the use of words to create pictures or images in your mind. It should appeal to the five senses. You can use any of the five: smell, sight, hearing, taste, and touch. Now, details about the smells, sounds, colors, or taste are going to create these strong images in the reader's mind. And to create vivid images, writers like to use figures of speech. Well, what are figures of speech? Figures of speech are tools that writers use to create images or paint pictures in your mind. For example, some of them are similes, metaphors, and personification. Those are usually the three most common that you will see in use for imagery. Well, what is a simile? A simile compares two things using the words like or as. The comparison has to have the word like or it has to have the word as in the comparison itself. Now, comparing one thing to another creates a vivid image. And we have one on this slide. The runner streaked like a cheetah. The runner is moving really fast. As a matter of fact, it almost streaks across the scene like the cheetah picture here. So here's a poem called Flint by Christina Rossetti that has similes. An emerald is as green as grass, a ruby red as blood, a sapphire shines as blue as heaven, a flint lies in the mud. A diamond is a brilliant stone to catch the world's desire. An opal holds a fiery spark, but a flint holds fire. So we have a couple of similes in the first stanza. An emerald is as green as grass. So we're having the comparison of an emerald's color of green to the green of a grass. A ruby red as blood is also a simile. We're looking at color again and how a ruby and blood would have a similar color. And the sapphire shines as blue as heaven, where we have sapphire's color blue being compared to the heavenly blue. A metaphor does the same thing as a simile. It also compares two things, but this time you're not going to see the words like or as. It has a tendency to use linking or helping verbs such as is, am, are, was, were, and so on. A metaphor gives the qualities of one thing to something that is quite different. We have an example on our slide. The winter wind is a wolf howling at the door. So a lot of times if we have a winter wind blowing quite a bit against a door or a window or a place where there might be a draft, just a little area where it can come in, you're going to have a sound. And so this is the winter wind's sound being compared to a wolf howling. But we don't have the word like or as, we have that helping verb is. So therefore it's a metaphor. Here's our poetry example. The night is a big black cat by G. Orr Clark. The night is a big black cat. The moon is her topaz eye. The stars are the mice she hunts at night in the field of the sultry sky. So again, we have two comparisons here. We have the night and the cat being compared. And we have our helping verb is in between, so we don't have the like or as. It's going to be a simile. Same thing in the next one. The moon is her topaz eye. The moon is being compared to an eye of the cat. The stars are the mice she hunts at night. The stars are being compared to mice that a cat might hunt. Again, we're looking at the helping verbs is, and are. There is no like or as, but there's two comparisons being made. Therefore, these are metaphors. We also have personification. Personification gives the human traits and feelings to things that are not human, like animals or objects, such as the moon smiled down at me. The moon is not a person, it cannot smile, but we do see when we look at the moon, there might be clouds or other gaseous areas that might create a sort of face. And so a lot of times when people look at the moon, they will personify it, saying that there is a face looking down. For our last slide, let's go take a look at a poem. From Mr. Sun by J. Patrick Lewis. Mr. Sun wakes up at dawn, puts his golden slippers on, climbs the summer sky at noon, trading places with the moon. So the sun, like the moon, cannot be a person, but we personify it by giving it human-like qualities. First of all, we're even giving it a name, Mr. Sun. But it's waking up like a human being would, putting slippers on. We know a sun won't have slippers, but we're personifying it. We're giving it slippers, and he's climbing, another personification, Trading places with the moon. Again, personifying both the sun and the moon here. Giving human qualities to the sun is personification. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel. If you like this video, please like and comment. I hope you guys subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, go ahead and check out some of my other videos. Thanks for stopping by.